Hi, North Idaho Second Amendment Alliance members. I really wish I could say I was happy to see you, but since I'm not there and this is just a video, I can't say I'm there and happy to see you. But I am so grateful that you are there. You know, the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance has come a long ways in 10 years, and we've seen a lot of changes in our state and in the country in the past 10 years. I don't think when we all started this, we would ever have dreamed that Donald Trump would ever become the president. I don't think we would ever have dreamed that some of the things we've witnessed on a national level would ever have happened. But I'm compelled to share this with you tonight. I love our state and I love our country. And I feel like I have been so blessed to grow up in a time when we really, truly knew what freedom was. When I was a kid growing up, I would leave on my horse first thing in the morning and I would come back at lunch and then I would come back at dark. And I was free to do that. It seemed like if you were willing to work hard and do your best and put it all on the line, you could be successful at almost anything you wanted to be. Today we are regulated and taxed and regulated to the point that it's really difficult just to get ahead. It just sometimes takes the wind out of our sails and the hope out of our hearts. But we can't allow that to happen. Another thing that I wanted to share with you is some of the thoughts I had that I shared with the Idaho Falls people when we had our event over there in October. You know, as a country, we've turned our hearts away from God. We took prayer out of our schools. We took down the 10 Commandments every place that we could, or we allowed it to happen. And when we do things like that, when we turn our back on our Creator and tell Him that He has no place in our country, things are going to spiral in a hurry, and they have. When I first got in the legislature, the idea of surgically mutilating the bodies of children was the farthest thing from my thoughts, farthest thing from my imagination. As I look back through my notes from when I started in 2016 to today, and the things we see and the things that we're hearing, to imagine that in a city park, we could have drag queens dancing and putting on their show in front of children, making it okay to totally degrade the image of women, to totally degrade life. We have states that want to make it legal to kill a baby if an abortion is botched, or even worse, to kill a baby when it has a live birth so that the parents have a chance to decide if they want that child. This is wrong in so many ways. There are not words really to express how wrong this is. We look back at civilizations in the past and we think how brutal they were. When we think about the Mayans and the Incas and how they sacrificed people on an altar, how they would cut their hearts out and sacrifice it to the gods. And we look at that and we think, how brutal is that and how savage was that? But we are no different today. We are at that point. If a child is not safe in the womb of its mother, if our children are not safe from having their bodies mutilated either surgically or chemically, castrating them so that the next generation doesn't even stand a chance to even thought about being born, we are just as bad as those in the past that we have looked at and thought how horrible and how barbaric that is. We have to turn our hearts back to God. We have to turn our nation, its heart has to turn back to God. And the only place it can start is within the heart of each one of us. We need to be brave. We need to stand up and say, I'm proud that I was a mother. There's not a greater calling than to be a parent. We need to tell our local school boards that we want prayer in our schools, that we want our children to know and understand that there is a Creator greater than we are, and that we are His children, and that our country was truly founded on those principles. It might not be too late if we can make this turn, if we can make this change. And the one thing I know about those who support the Second Amendment, they support the Constitution. They support the idea that we live in a land that was consecrated by God to be special. The United States rose in power to be one of the greatest civilizations that ever existed on the face of this planet. And that's because it was founded in godly principles. The first thing that happened after the very first legislature or Congress was held, when George Washington was inaugurated as president, they walked down to a church and they prayed and they consecrated this land and this new government that they had fought for, that they had left bloody footprints in the snow for. They consecrated it to God, and they asked his favor and blessing upon this country. And as long as we carried him in our hearts, we would be free and we would be prosperous. We've come a long ways from that day. We've come a long ways from that time. But it's not too late. I ask you today to stand with us, to stand strong against the tyranny that we see. And it comes in, it creeps in a little by little, a little compromise here and a little compromise there. And maybe if we give up a little over here and they give up a little over here and we meet somewhere in the middle, we can get along. But we've seen that doesn't work. There is no meeting in the middle. When it comes to our God-given rights, when it comes to our right to defend ourselves, to defend our homes, to defend those that we love, you cannot compromise. When it comes to defending our country from a tyrannical government, when it comes to defending our country and ourselves and our homes from terrorism and terroristic entities, there is no compromise. There can be no compromise on these issues. I'm so grateful for what you've done in the past. I'm so grateful for the membership and support of every member of the Second Amendment Alliance across the state, no matter where they are. You have helped Greg Pruitt and his family build one of the strongest, most long-lasting organizations the state of Idaho has ever seen. And they serve with their whole entire heart, their might, their minds, and their soul. They truly have pledged their sacred honor and everything they have to the freedom of the state of Idaho. I hope you enjoyed tonight. I wish I could be there, but Greg decided there was some place that right now it was just a little more important for me to be. But next time we have a banquet, I plan on being there, and I plan on celebrating the success that the Alliance has seen over the last 10 years with you. May God hold you in his hands. May God bless and keep our state and our country. And it's up to us to allow him in to make that happen. Godspeed.